I never thought my marriage would unravel during something as ordinary as a weekend trip. But sometimes the smallest decisions, the seemingly harmless choices people make, expose truths that have been hiding all along. My name doesn't matter much, but what happened to me that night will stay etched in my mind forever. It all started when my wife insisted that we join her friends on what she called a little adventure. She had been growing more comfortable with this group lately, and although I didn't feel like I truly belonged, I wanted to support her. After all, when you love someone, you compromise. We traveled across state lines, hours away from home for what was supposed to be a quick weekend getaway. Her friends were loud, unmated, and sometimes reckless, but I thought if I played along, maybe I would earn their acceptance. They seemed to laugh at things I didn't find funny, to share inside jokes I wasn't part of. And my wife, instead of pulling me closer, laughed along with them. I convinced myself that it was fine, that maybe I was overthinking, but deep down, there was a quiet ache. Something in the way she looked at them told me I was already on the outside. The first day passed with little more than idle chatter, sightseeing and group meals where I barely had a say in what we did. But it was on the second night that everything shifted. After dinner, I excused myself to stretch my legs, and when I returned to the lobby of the hotel, I noticed their faces all huddled together, whispering. My wife's glance flicked in my direction, then back to them, and they all burst into laughter as if they were sharing a joke. My stomach tightened, but I ignored it. Surely it couldn't be about me. Surely the people I trusted, my wife, most of all, wouldn't belittle me in that way. But the next morning, their plan unfolded. We had breakfast together, and then suddenly there was talk of splitting into smaller groups to explore different places. My wife casually mentioned she'd be riding with her friends. "You can take the other car," she said, as if it were nothing. There was no discussion, no asking what I thought, just a statement. I tried to argue, but was quickly silenced by the wave of chatter and insistence from her friends. So I went along with it. At least that's what I thought. We drove for hours. The landscape outside blurred, but inside, I felt the weight of something cruel in the air. At one point, we stopped for gas. That's when I realized their real plan. While I was inside grabbing a bottle of water, I heard laughter spill from the parking lot. I looked out just in time to see the cars pulling away. Both of them. My wife sat in the passenger seat of the lead car. She didn't even look back. My heart stopped as I dropped the bottle from my hand. I stumbled outside, staring at the taillights. Disappearing down the road, their laughter still echoing in my ears. I was stranded, alone, miles from home. And not a single familiar face around me dot at first. I thought it had to be some kind of sick prank. Surely they would circle back. Surely my wife wouldn't leave me behind. But an hour passed, then two. Cars came and went, people filled the gas station, but none of them were her. None of them stopped for me. My phone battery was nearly dead, and I didn't even know exactly where I was. Panic coursed through me, followed by anger. Then finally, a cold realization. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't just her friends. My wife had been part of it. She had left me there on purpose, as I sat on the curb outside that gas station. I thought about our entire relationship. Every subtle jab, every dismissal of my feelings, every time she sided with her friends instead of me. They all came rushing back like pieces of a puzzle I had ignored for too long. And suddenly, the picture was clear. I had been nothing more than a prop in her life. Someone to fill the role of a husband while she found amusement elsewhere. The laughter I had seen in her eyes wasn't the laughter of love. It was the laughter of mockery. I managed to borrow a phone charger from the gas station clerk and called a cab to take me to the nearest bus terminal. The ride was long, but I used the time to think. At first, I wanted to call her, to scream at her, to demand answers. But then another thought settled in my mind. Silence could be louder than any words. If she could abandon me so easily, then maybe it was time I walked. Away for good. Not just from the trip, but from her entirely. By the time I reached the bus terminal, I had made up my mind. I bought a ticket home and sat quietly, staring out the window as the miles rolled by. When I finally stepped into her house the next evening, she wasn't there yet. Hours later, she walked in with a smile that quickly faded when she saw me. Her friends weren't with her, but their presence lingered in the way she held herself. She opened her mouth to explain, to laugh it off as a joke, but I didn't let her. I simply handed her the divorce papers I had printed earlier that day. I had already signed them. Her eyes widened, and for the first time in a long while, she was speechless. The silence between us spoke volumes. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to shout. The simple act of walking away was enough, because in the end, being stranded in another state had shown me the truth. I had been emotionally stranded long before that. She had left me a long time ago, in ways far crueler than abandoning me at a gas station. That night didn't change everything. It just revealed what had already been broken. And as I closed the door behind me for the last time, I felt a strange sense of peace. Sometimes the cruelest betrayals are blessings in disguise. Being left behind was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it set me free.